an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Blood of Elves, Chapter 5. In this chapter, we jump around a little bit here. I was a mite confused about what was happening, because it seems like we just abruptly transitioned from what's going on last chapter into a whole new thing, and we find out later that there's even been a bit of a time jump, but none of that is explained, and I have to say, I was confused for a good half of this chapter. We'll parse it together. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha, and thank you to Melanie for commissioning this episode. Melanie is here in the chat, I believe. Hi, Melanie. So, when I say that I was confused about this chapter, I'm going to read you the last sentences of the chapter before this, right? Geralt put his arms around Ciri. Slowly, he unpinned the white rose spattered with dark stains from her jerkin, and without a word, threw it on the squirrel's body. "Farewell," whispered Ciri. "Farewell, Rose of Sharawed. Farewell, and forgive us," added the Witcher. So chapter 5, we go from pretty much chapters 4 and 3 are right on the tail of each other. But chapter 5 is when Ciri has been dropped off at school, and evidently the Witcher is off doing his own thing, trying to lure this guy Rince into I don't want to say trap, because that's too strong a word. He doesn't actually seem to have a huge, plan in place that I can see. It's more that he's just trying to lure him into a confrontation because he wants to get a handle on who this guy is. And when the Witcher sets this trap, he takes a job guarding people's possessions on a ferry, essentially, that goes back and forth. Because apparently there is a creature in the water that has been jumping up and taking people. And I don't know about you, but I don't like water creatures. Gets me. There's so many aspects of why I don't like them. The first thing is, I don't like the fact that something could literally be underneath you and you don't know about it. And that could be true on land. Sure, it could be. And it is, if you've ever dealt with the fire ants in Texas. But it's not the same. There's very rarely going to be something that can just reach up from under the earth and grab you and pull you down underground. That's nothing. So, there's a creature that not only can it grab people, but it grabs people, off the decks of ships. And it's described later, its arms, as being lightly serrated, like the arms of a praying mantis, which I feel like makes it somehow worse, because I was imagining something sort of squid-like, or even maybe like a crocodile sort of thing, because he describes it as looking like a log at one point, and that's, a lot of people say that alligators and crocodiles, you will mistake them for being half-submerged logs a lot of the time. But this thing having long insect-like arms, nope, don't like that. And if there's any other kind of creature that, if I'm worried about monsters, a monster that lives in a cave, well then you just kind of avoid caves, okay? A monster that comes at you from the air, if it scoops you up, you're still in the air, you can breathe, you can maybe continue to fight back. Something that snatches you from water, and there are times where you can't avoid crossing water, you are dragged under and you are not even able to breathe. you've got like half a minute to fight back and maybe get away before you drown completely independent of whatever this monster is going to do with you. No, I don't like this at all. And so this chapter starts off, and we're not told that there's been a time jump or anything. I'm just sitting here wondering where the hell Ciri is, and she's not mentioned. And this little kid is poking and prodding at Geralt, asking, like, are you a knight or a soldier or something? And Geralt is sort of talking back and forth with this kid and surprising himself, because usually he doesn't have the energy or inclination to do this. He's not normally this patient. Move away from the side, said the Witcher, and shut your mouth or flies will get in. The boy opened his mouth even wider. Gray-haired yet stupid, snarled the little snot's mother, a richly attired noblewoman, pulling her offspring away by the beaver collar of his cloak. Come here, Everett. I told you so many times not to be familiar with the passing rabble. So then we get Ciri's letter, and this is like the one thing that kind of informs what's been happening. And it's such an amount of time has passed that I was really caught off guard. I sleep in a large hall called a dormitorium, and my bed is terribly big, I tell you. I'm with the intermediary girls. There are 12 of us, but I'm mostly friendly with Euronide, Katya, and Yola the Second. Whereas today I ate broth, and the worst is that sometimes we have to fast and get up very early at dawn, earlier than in Kaer Morhen. I will write the rest tomorrow, for we shall presently be having prayers. No one ever prayed in Kaer Morhen. I wonder why we have to here. No doubt because this is a temple. Geralt. Mother Ninike has read and said I must not write silly things and write clearly without mistakes, and about what I'm studying, and that I feel well and healthy. I feel well and am healthy, if unfortunately hungry, but soon be dinner. And Mother Ninike also said, write that prayer has never harmed anybody yet, neither me nor certainly you. Geralt, I have some free time again. I will write, therefore, that I am studying. To read and write correct runes, history, nature, poetry and prose, to express myself well in the common speech and in the elder speech. I am best at the elder speech. I can also write elder runes. I will write something for you, and you will see for yourself. Elaine Blath Finnawed, that means beautiful flower, child of the sun. You see for yourself that I can. And also, and then it breaks off. Now I can write again, for I have found a new quill, for the old one broke. Mother Ninike read this and praised me that it was correct, that I am obedient, she told me to write, and that you should not worry. Don't worry, Geralt. Again, I have some time, so I will write what happened. When we were feeding the turkey hens, I, Yola, and Katya, one enormous turkey attacked us, a red neck it had, and was terrible horrible. First it attacked Yola, and then it wanted to attack me, but I was not afraid because it was smaller and slower than the pendulum anyway. I dodged and did a pirouette and walloped it twice with a switch until it made off. Mother Ninike does not allow me to carry my sword here, a pity, for I would have shown that turkey what I learned in Kaer Morhen. I already know that in the Elder Runes it would be written Kaer Amurin, and that it means Keeper of the Elder Sea. So, no doubt that is why there are shells and snails there, as well as fish imprinted on the stones. And Sintra is correctly written Zintria, with an X. Whereas my name comes from Ziriel, for that means swallow, and that means that, so, that he gets cut off here, but he goes back to it. That means that I have an elven name, but I am not, after all, an elf. Geralt, there's also talk about the squirrels here. Sometimes even the soldiers come and ask questions and say that we must not treat wounded elves. I have not squealed a word to anyone about what happened in the spring, don't worry. And I also remember to practice, don't think otherwise. I go to the park and train when I have time, but not always, for I also have work in the kitchen or in the orchard, like all the girls. And we also have a terrible amount of studying to do. But never mind, I will study. After all, you too studied in the temple, Mother Ninike told me, and she also told me that just any idiot can brandish a sword, but a Witcher girl must be wise. Geralt, you promised to come. Come. Your Ciri. P.S. Come. P.S. 2. Mother Neneke told me to end with praise be to great Melatelli. May her blessing and favor always go with you, and may nothing happen to you. Ciri. So, this is when the Witcher is thinking to himself, I really do want to go visit her, but this feels like a really bad idea. And at the moment, I'm kind of like, well, she's able to contact you this way. Maybe it's fine. He's thinking that maybe they shouldn't even be using the mail, but it seems to be okay. But then when we find out what we do later and how closely, like, Dandelion is being watched and everything, I'm like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe this is a bad idea. Because he's thinking that he's going to lead whoever is looking for her right to her. So, the guy who is running this little boat, the skipper, is called Boatbug, which obviously cannot be his real name, but I like it, so we're going to keep it Boatbug. And he's talking about, like, the monster that people have encountered, and that it won't show itself in the sunlight. And this guy, like, Geralt says, well, you know, what are you going to do? Maybe we won't see it. And this guy tries to be like, oh yeah, I guess it doesn't bother you, does it? Because you're getting paid by the trip, not according to what animals you kill, what monsters you slay. And Geralt's like, okay, why are you acting like that? Like, I hear envy in your voice. And you're also paid just to be on board, so I don't really understand why you're acting like, for me, I'm cheating people, but for you, it's fine. And he's like, yeah, all right, that's a fair point. This is the 5th year I sail the Delta for them from Foam to Novigrad, from Novigrad to Foam. Well, to work, Witcher sir. You go on leaning against the side, and I'll go for a stroll from prow to stern. So he gets this other letter, and this one is from Yennefer. I'm going to take a sip of this before I read this because I want to do it justice. Okay. It starts off, Dear friend. The Witcher swore quietly, looking at the sharp, angular, even runes draw with energetic sweeps of a pen, faultlessly reflecting the author's mood. He felt once again the desire to try to bite his own backside in fury. When he was writing to the Enchantress a month ago, he had spent 2 nights in a row contemplating how best to begin. Finally, he had decided on Dear Friend. Now he had his just desserts. Dear friend, your unexpected letter, which I received not quite 3 years after we last saw each other, has given me much joy. My joy is all the greater, as various rumors have been circulating about your sudden and violent death. It is a good thing that you have decided to disclaim them by writing to me. It is a good thing, too, that you are doing so soon. From your letter, it appears that you have lived a peaceful, wonderfully boring life, devoid of all sensation. These days, such a life is a real privilege, dear friend, and I am happy that you have managed to achieve it. I was touched by the sudden concern which you deigned to show as to my health, dear friend. I hasten with the news that, yes, I now feel well. The period of indisposition is behind me. I have dealt with the difficulties, the description of which I shall not bore you with. It worries and troubles me very much that the unexpected present you received from fate brings you worries. Your supposition that this requires professional help is absolutely correct. Although your description of the difficulty, quite understandably, is enigmatic, I am sure I know the source of the problem. And I agree with your opinion that the help of yet another magician is absolutely necessary. I feel honored to be the second to whom you turn. What have I done to deserve to be so high on your list? Rest assured, my dear friend, and if you had the intention of supplicating the help of additional magicians, abandon it, because there's no need. I leave without delay, and go to the place which you indicated in an oblique, yet to me, understandable way. It goes without saying that I leave in absolute secrecy and with great caution. I will surmise the nature of the trouble on the spot, and will do all that is in my power to calm the gushing source. I shall try, in so doing, not to appear any worse than other ladies to whom you have turned, are turning, or usually turn with your supplications. I am, after all, your dear friend. Your valuable friendship is too important to me to disappoint you, dear friend. Should you, in the next few years, wish to write to me, do not hesitate for a moment. Your letters invariably give me boundless pleasure. Your friend, Yennefer. Well then. This bitch is pissed. Oh my god, I can't decide because he curses again. And I can't decide if he thinks she's like just straight up not coming, or if he thinks that she's coming, but he's like not looking forward to having to get reamed out by her, which feels a little bit more likely. There's just the whole tone of it from beginning to end is just like, oh, wow. So I am aware that you're fucking my friend. I am aware that she's been helping you, but now you need somebody else and you're coming to me as second best. I am aware that we used to be like deeply in love with each other and now you're calling me your friend. And I'm also aware that it's been 3 fucking years since you contacted me, and the first time you do is because you need something from me. Awesome. Oh my god, I love her so much. She's so mad. Okay. So, at this point, there are a couple of ships that are heading towards them. There's a barge, and there's also where the barge was slowly and laboriously turning towards the Temerian shore, leaving the fairway and ceding right of way to 2 ships looming through the mist. The first was an enormous 3-masted galleass, at least 140 yards long, carrying an amaranth flag with a silver eagle. Behind it, its 40 oars, rhythmically hard at work, glided a smaller, slim galley adorned with a black ensign with gold-red chevron. Interesting, muttered Geralt. The galleass is sailing under the Redanian flag, but the galley is from Aedirn. This is the kind of thing that frustrates me with this book. I don't know what that means. If any of you in the chat here want to enlighten me, I am all ears. Interesting, the galleass is sailing under this, but the galley is from such and such. I don't know. What is the significance of that? Like, and I haven't heard of, like, there's certain areas of this country that when they mention them, I'm like, I know I've heard that before. I know I've heard that name before. But this is not one of those times. When he says this, I stopped and was like, am I supposed to know where that is? And if I am, I don't. So there are moments like that where I'm just like, I feel like this author is writing this like I'm supposed to know what that means. And I don't know if I'm letting the author down or if I only interpret it as that I'm supposed to know what it means, but the author doesn't intend for me to, and they're going to explain it. It doesn't seem like they do explain it. So let's see. They're heading to Foam or Whitebridge. And there are swarms of soldiers on the decks. These aren't merchants. They're warships, Geralt. Someone important is on that galleass. They've set up a tent on deck. So, at this point, Boatbug is in on the conversation and says, in Foam you asked me to keep my ears open in case anyone was interested in you or asking about you. Well, that weakling there, you see him? Don't point, Boatbug. Who is he? How should I know? Ask him yourself. He's coming over. Just look at his stagger. And the water's still as a mirror, pox on it. If it were to swell just a little, he'd probably be on all fours, the oaf. The oaf turned out to be a short, thin man of uncertain age, dressed in a large woolen and none too clean cloak, pinned in place with a circular brass brooch. Its pin, clearly lost, had been replaced by a crooked nail with a flattened head. The man approached, cleared his throat, and squinted with his myopic eyes. So we meet Linus Pitt, master tutor and lecturer in natural history at the Oxenfurt Academy. Melanie says, my only guess is that it's a local thing for where the author lives, like when HP mentions King's Cross. I understand your frustration, though. Oh, are these real places? I totally thought these were invented countries, Melanie. Now, see, I didn't even think of that. But that's interesting. Okay. So this dude, Linus Pitt, the name Linus is so perfect because he is such a Linus. This dude is completely like, okay. Witchers aren't secret. It's not like he's a vampire slayer, like in Buffy, where you have to do all of this, but also keep everything like on the DL and keep ordinary people from like finding out that weird shit's happening. Monsters are frequently seen by all kinds of people all the time. Witchers are trained and hired at great expense to come and take care of these monsters. Yet this dude Linus is trying to act out here like the Witcher doesn't know his own job or that he's making shit up. And for what? Why would he? The Witcher says that I have come to the conclusion I have most likely been hired as a precaution against an attack from a Scoia'tael commando force said to be roaming the vicinity. This is my 6th journey between Foam and Novigrad, and no Eshna has shown itself. Eshna? That's some kind of common name. I would rather you use the scientific terminology. Eshna, I truly do not know which species you have in mind. I'm thinking of a bumpy and rough-skinned monster, 4 yards in length, resembling a stump overgrown with algae and with 10 paws and jaws like cut saws. The description leaves a lot to be desired as regards scientific precision. Could it be one of the species of the Hyphidridae family? I don't exclude the possibility, sighed Geralt. The Eshna, as far as I know, belongs to an exceptionally nasty family for which no name can be abusive. The thing is, Master Tutor, that apparently a member of this unsympathetic clan attacked the company's barge 2 weeks ago, here on the Delta, not far from where we are. And at this point, Linus bursts out laughing and is like, okay, whoever told you that is full of shit, or they're complete idiot, because there's no way that that's going on. Nothing like that lives in these waters. It would be impossible. Yada, yada, yada. The usual, like, claptrap about, I don't believe in such things. And it's just like, guys, honestly, it's right in, like, how do you not? And by the end of this, he sees it. So he does get that cleared up for him. Nevertheless, though, I was just like, dude, how are you going to stand here and talk to a Witcher like this motherfucker doesn't know shit? This is his whole job. Tracking dinosaurs. I was about to say dinosaurs. Tracking dinosaurs is his whole job. This would be a very different book. I can't believe I almost said dinosaurs. I'm going to die. Tracking monsters is this guy's entire job. So how are you going to come out here and try and act like you know more shit about this than him? This kind of thing makes me so mad. So then they start talking about how polluted the water here is. And Geralt says, during high tide, when the incoming tide wave passes the Novigrad canals, there is no water, to use the word precisely, in the delta at all. There is a liquid made up of excrement, soap suds, oil, and dead rats. Is that the foulest thing you ever heard? Oh my God. Guys, seriously. Excrement, soap suds, oil, and dead rats. And when he says this, I straight up expected this scientist to be like, well, I mean, there's of course some water and it's not that bad and yada, yada, yada. Nope. The scientist just goes, yeah, unfortunately, that's true. Degradation of the environment. And I was like, wow, if this dude's agreeing, it's got to be really bad. And then they talk for a little bit about how many of the fish have died. Like all these different species have just vanished. And I was like, oh, this is a little too close to home. Geralt kind of like fucks with him at one point and they see like a huge, fish go by and grab one of the dead rats that's floating. And Linus is like, what was that? And Geralt was like, yeah, maybe it was a penguin. Like he's just like so done with this dude. So this kid Everett, which is the little kid that was asking him in the beginning if he was a knight, is really annoying pretty much everybody. His mom is doing her best, but you know, kids are going to be kids. And he's wandering around like yelling for her, running around on deck and like getting underfoot. So this kid winds up being grabbed to get to the point of this scene because there's a lot of going back and forth with Linus Pitt arguing about whether this monster is real. I'm not going to get into that because it's basically the same thing. Let's see. Oh, the creature you're talking about is an Illichorus called a Cinera in Elder speech. And if the learned bumbler states that it feeds exclusively on fish, then I assume he's never bathed in a lake with an Illichorus. But bumbler's right on one account. The Eskna has as much in common with a Cinera as I do with a fox. We both like to eat duck. What's Cinera? Truly, I am amazed. I know, interrupted Geralt. I lose a great deal of my charm when one gets to know me better. Nevertheless, I will permit myself to correct your theories a little further. Eskne have always lived in the Delta and continue to do so. Yada, 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 yada. And he talks about how the liquid manure seems to suit it. The thing has started to mutate in order to be able to, like, you know, function better here. And some customs officers at this point come aboard. That's what they say they are. It does not appear that is true. They're asking, is there any currency, Temerian or Nilfgaardian money? What's in that chest? Open these bags. And here comes another section with some wording that, now, Melanie, that you've pointed out that maybe these are real places that he's talking about, I'm wondering if these are real things. I'm going to read this to you. That's what a customs war looks like, Linus Pitt commented on the chaos with a wise expression on his face. Vizimir forced Novigrad to introduce the Ius Stapulae. Full test of Temeria retaliated with a retortive absolute Ius Stapulae in Wizima and Gorsvalen. There was a great blow for Redanian merchants, so Vizimir increased the tax on Temerian products. What is Ius Stipulae? What is this? Is this a real thing? I didn't look it up. Because, like, anytime that I look up stuff like this, I wind up spoiling myself somehow, even though I don't think it's possible. So, in a nutshell, smiled Geralt, Nilfgaard is slowly taking over with its goods and gold, that which it couldn't take with its arms. And they go on back and forth like this with these customs agents, getting right up in Linus's face, demanding to see all of his stuff. And finally, let's see, here it is. Everybody's calling this kid, first of all, Geralt says scram to this kid at one point. And at this point, this guy Olsen says scram also. Can I just say how much I love that scram is a term in this universe? It's such a weird, like, it feels really American to me, and I guess it's not necessarily, but it might just be like the translation. They're using the closest American slang for something that they're translating out of slang. So, when they get interrupted, this dude grabs the kid, finally, this bald dude, and is holding him hostage. And everybody's like, oh, it's really interesting. It seems like weird tactics, considering that you say that you're guards, to take this kid hostage like this. Interesting. Slaughter him then, drawled Olsen, giving this a sign to his men and pulling on his cutlass. Is he mine or something? And when you've slaughtered him, then we can talk. I'm yours, liar guard, sir, says Geralt, throwing his sword on the deck, and with a gesture, he held back the customs officer and boat-bug sailors. Let the boy go. Have you lost your mind, Geralt? Growled Olsen. Don't interfere. Everett! The Temerian lighter suddenly rocked and bounced away from the barge. The water exploded with a splash, and two long, green, coarse paws, bristling with spikes like the limbs of a praying mantis, shot out. The paws grabbed the guard holding the boat hook, and in the wink of an eye, dragged him underwater. The bald guard howled savagely, released Everett, and clung onto the ropes which dangled from the lighter's side. Everett plopped into the already reddening water. Everybody, those on the barge and those on the lighter, started to scream as if possessed. So, Geralt jumps in the water, and he saves this kid. The other guards are dead, and he's like really trying to save this guy Baldy, whom he's fighting with in the water. Because he wants to question this dude as to like why they were looking for him and who hired him and everything. But he does not get this. This dude winds up getting carried away. It's an anthropod, order Amphipoda, group Mandibulatissime. What is it? Mandibulatissime. So when he finally like gets hauled up out of the water after fighting with this guy, he says, the scholar says, I'm so grateful to you. This species is going to appear in books as Geraltia maxiliosa piti. Master Tutor, Geralt groaned, if you really want to show me your gratitude, let that damn thing be called Everettia. I love that. He wants it named after the kid. He's like, yeah, we're going to name this horrible monster after another horrible monster. What do you think of that plan? The carpet of water lilies adhering to the nearby islet, islet? Is it islet or islet? Trembled and rocked violently. They saw a wave and then an enormous long body resembling a rotting log, swiftly paddling its many limbs and snapping its jaws. The bald man looked back, howled horrifically, and swam away, stirring up the water with his arms and legs. What a specimen! Pitt quickly noted, thrilled to no end. Prehensile cephalic limbs, 4 pairs of chellae, strong tail fan, sharp claws. The bald man looked back again and howled even more horribly. And the Everettia maxiliosa, pity, extended its prehensile cephalic limbs and swung its tail fan vigorously. The bald man surged the water in a desperate, hopeless attempt to escape. May the water be light to him, said Olsen, but he did not remove his hat. My daddy, rattled Everett with his teeth, can swim faster than that man. Oh my God. Everett, shut the fuck up. Baldy shrieked briefly, choked, and disappeared below the surface. The water throbbed dark red. Whoops! So there goes a problem taken care of, but not in the most convenient way that I could think of. Yeah, this whole scene and the fact that basically, like, he was hired. Now, Geralt had his own reasons for taking this job, but he was hired to protect people from this thing. And it's really quite excellent luck that the people who wound up getting taken by this thing were not passengers or people who were like paying customers. These were guards who came out here and tried to fuck shit up and lie about who they were. So that's fine. I have no problem with this. I don't think anybody else is going to have a problem with this. It almost seems like, and I know this isn't what happened, but one could be forgiven for thinking that Geralt was able to like call this creature to his defense. But I, again, would like to register how much I don't like this creature. It's too creepy, guys. I can't deal with the combination of underwater, like, characteristics combined with insectoid? Is that the word I want? Insect-like characteristics. So, then we go to Dandelion. And Dandelion, or Dandelion, for those of you who did not listen to the audiobook before actually reading this and seeing how it's spelled, Dandelion is out here in Oxenfurt, which is like his favorite. Basically, Dandelion feels like he's in Vegas a little bit. He's just wandering around thinking about how like everything is so colorful. Everybody is so high energy. There's so much to do. There's lecturers and researchers and scholars and students. There's all kinds of like different conversations that are going on with that are intellectual and, you know, founded in business or theory or philosophy or whatever. There's tons of the poet rode slowly along a muddy, crowded street, passing workshops, studios, stalls, shops small and large, where, thanks to the Academy, tens of thousands of articles and wonderful things were produced and sold which were unattainable in other corners of the world where their production was considered impossible or pointless. He passed inns, taverns, stands, huts, counters, and portable grills from which floated the appetizing aromas of elaborate dishes unknown elsewhere in the world, seasoned in ways not known elsewhere, with garnishes and spices neither known of nor used anywhere else. Now, is that crazy, though? Who's going to have some like awesome food somewhere and not try and like recreate that at home? And who isn't going to sell those spices to the public? I want to know why you can only get certain things here. Feels like a monopoly. Feels like something shady's going on here. Night and day, the streets resounded with music, song, and the clinking of chalices and tankards, for it is well known that nothing is such thirsty work as the acquisition of knowledge, although the Chancellor's orders forbade students and tutors to drink and play before dusk. Drinking and playing took place around the clock in Oxenfurt, for it is well known that if there is anything that makes men thirstier than the acquisition of knowledge, it is the full or partial prohibition of drinking. Yo, they ain't wrong, though. As soon as you're like, that's not allowed, guess what, kids? So yeah, then we get a bit of a series of people calling to him, trying to sell him stuff as he's riding through. Meanwhile, Dandelion notices that he is being followed, and it's not even like these guys are really trying that hard to keep it like... The most that they're bothering to do is when he turns and looks back at them, they like look around at the sky and start whistling. And that's about as much effort as they put into making sure that he doesn't notice them. He passed the enormous building of the bawdy house, the Rosebud, where he knew refined services either unknown or simply unpopular in other corners of the world were offered. For some time, his rational mind struggled against his character, and that desire to enter for an hour. Reason triumphed. Dandelion sighed and rode on toward the university, trying not to look in the direction of the tap rooms from which issued the sounds of merriment. So, these guys are following him, and he's kind of like unsure how to handle them, and finally sort of runs into them. And let's see. Oh, first he runs into Shani, who later on we find in bed with Geralt. A young medical student with dark red hair cropped just below her ears raised her head from a volume on anatomy and got up from her bench. And he points out these two spies, and he says, "Will you do something for me? Will you pass on a message? I want to pass on some information and can't do it myself with these shits stuck to my heels." And he brought his lips closer to the girl's hair and took a while to whisper something. Shani's eyes opened wide. "A witcher? A real witcher? Quiet, for the love of gods. Will you do that, Shani?" "Of course. Just out of curiosity, to see, close up, the famous..." Real close up. Girl. Listen, I'm not mad at her, because Geralt sounds like he's hot as hell. Like, what are you supposed to do? Just not sleep with him if you get the chance? Get out of here. And also, I have to say that I was really surprised by the fact that Geralt slept with her, because he seems so sort of circumspect. It's like, he slept once with Triss, and he regretted it and won't do it again. He had this relationship with Yennefer, which ended years ago, but, like, obviously he's still very much hung up on her. He just doesn't seem like the type. So the fact that he slept with this girl, I was like, oh, word? All right. Like, I was kind of glad. It makes him feel a little bit more human to me, in a way. So he passed the modern, gloomy Faculty of Technology building, dubbed the Deus Ex Machina by the students, and turned on to Guildenstern Bridge. He did not get far. Two people lurked around a corner by the lane. As was the habit of all snoops in the world, they avoided meeting others' eyes, and like all snoops in the world, they had coarse, pale faces. These they tried very hard to furnish with an intelligent expression, thanks to which they resembled demented monkeys. Ouch! "Greetings from Dijkstra," said one of the spies. "We're off." "Likewise," the bard replied impudently. "Off you go." The spies looked at each other then, rooted to the spot, fixed their eyes on an obscene word which someone had scribbled in charcoal on the plinth supporting the Chancellor's bust. Dandelion sighed. "Just as I thought. So I'm going to be irrevocably forced to accompany you somewhere. Too bad. Let's go." So, Dijkstra? This guy's name. Dijkstra. That's hard. Oof. Okay. He was almost 7 foot tall and probably only weighed a little under 2 quintals, which I don't know what that means. I'm going to say maybe like, a quintal is like almost 100 pounds. Because I feel like if you're about like a little less than 200 pounds, but you're 7 feet tall, you're going to look really, really skinny. Because Dandelion knew very few people whose appearance was as deceptive as Dijkstra's. Oh, but then he calls him Porky. So I guess he's not supposed to be. Probably only weighed a little under 2 quintals, but he calls him Porky, so I don't understand. And he possessed an exceptionally keen mind and considerable authority. A popular saying at King Vizimir's court held that if Dijkstra states it's noon, yet darkness reigns all around, it is time to start worrying about the fate of the sun. I really like that line a lot. It is time to start worrying about the fate of the sun. At present, however, the poet had other reasons to worry. So Dijkstra meets him and says, "Dandelion, you thick-headed half-wit, you unmitigated dunce, Do you have to spoil everything you touch? Couldn't you just once in your life do something right? I know you can't think for yourself. I know you're almost 40, look almost 30, think you're just over 20, and act as though you're barely 10. And being aware of this, I usually furnish you with precise instructions. I usually furnish you and tell you what you have to do, when you have to do it, and how you're to go about it. And I regularly get the impression that I'm talking to a stone wall. So, what we find out here is that Dandelion works with this guy occasionally, but he isn't like his ally. And that's the thing, is that Dijkstra, I'm just going to call him Dijkstra. Let's just call him Dick. Dick seems to be under the impression that, like, Dandelion works for him. And Dandelion's like, yeah, I'm an independent contractor. Like, I don't owe you any sort of loyalty. I'm going to do precisely what you ask me and no more. And no less, but no more. And you can't guarantee yourself or, like, depend on me to help you next time. I'll help you if I feel like helping you, if I need to help you, if there's something I can get out of it. So there are 4 people here, including the poet. Apart from Dijkstra, 2 other people took part. One of these was, as usual, Ori Reuven, the aged and eternally sniffing secretary to the chief of Redanian spies. The other was no ordinary person. You know very well what I'm getting at, Dijkstra replied coldly. However, since you clearly enjoy playing the idiot, I won't spoil your game and will explain using simple words. Or maybe you'd like to make use of this privilege, Philippa. So, we meet Philippa Eilhart. I don't think we've ever met her before. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Philippa Eilhart is wearing men's clothing and is dressed in what we are told is a very different look for her. Because he describes her, she says she wore neither a dress nor her favorite black agate jewelry, nor any sharp makeup. The enchantress's dark hair, usually loose and worn in a picturesque mess, was brushed and smooth and tied back at the nape of her neck. So she says, we can spare ourselves the rhetoric if we just straight up ask him what we want to know. And Dijkstra's like, well, you know, you're acting like this is a trivial matter. But there was a dangerous Nilfgaardian agent who could now be trivially locked away in my deepest dungeon in Tretogor, has trivially escaped, trivially warned and frightened away by the trivial stupidity of 2 gentlemen known as Dandelion and Geralt. I've seen people wander to the scaffolds over less trivialities. Why didn't you inform me about your ambush, Dandelion? Did I not instruct you to keep me informed about all the Witcher's intentions? Okay. What am I missing? Is he referencing something that happened earlier that I have forgotten about? Because, like, admittedly, I haven't read the first chapter of this in months at this point. It has been quite a while. And even though I, like, went back and reread before the most recent chapters to refresh myself, I didn't go all the way back to the very beginning of the book. And he's talking like, okay, there was somebody who was, like, helped to escape. I don't remember what he's talking about. And I don't know if I'm supposed to or what. I didn't know anything about Geralt's plans. I told you that he went to Temeria and Sodden to hunt down this Rince. I also told you that he had returned. I was convinced he had given up. Rince had literally dissolved into thin air. The Witcher didn't find the slightest trail. And this, if you remember, I also told you. You lied, stated the spy coldly. The Witcher did find Rince's trail, in the form of corpses. That's when he decided to change his tactics. Instead of chasing Rince, he decided to wait for Rince to find him. He signed up to the Malatius and Grok Company barges as an escort. He did so intentionally. He knew that the company would advertise it far and wide, that Rince would hear of it, and then venture to try something. And so Rince did. The strange, elusive Master Rince. The insolent, self-assured Master Rince who does not even bother to use aliases or false names. Master Rince who from a mile off smells of Nilfgaardian chimney smoke and of being a renegade sorcerer. Isn't that right, Philippa? So, I remember Rince being the one that tortured Dandelion. He's torturing him. That's when I think Triss busts in, right, and finds him. Or was it Yennefer at that point? I feel like it was Triss, because I think she talks about Yennefer. And the dude manages to escape via a portal that he has made. And the fact that the portal came up so quickly led them to believe, I think, that that dude did not actually make the portal himself, that somebody else provided him with an escape from the other side. Because I think it was suspected basically that he didn't have the skill necessary to do that, and if he had, he would have been able to defend himself using magic more effectively than he had thus far. So, at this point, Philippa is silent and kind of looking at him, and there's this paragraph. The poet lowered his eyes and hawked hesitantly. He did not like such gazes. Dandelion divided women, including magicians, into very likable, unlikable, and very unlikable. The very likable reacted to the proposition of being bedded with joyful acquiescence. The likable with a happy smile. The unlikable reacted unpredictably. The very unlikable were counted by the troubadour to be those to whom the very thought of presenting such a proposition made his back go strangely cold and his knees shake. Philippa Eilhart, although very attractive, was decidedly very unlikable. If that isn't the exact measure that so many men use to decide whether women are likable, I am a blue-nosed gopher. That is so fucking dead on, and it's such a bummer. Be better, Dandelion. Come on. And he's looking at Philippa, and she's like, apparently, she's a court magician to King Vizimir, and everybody knows that she's like 300 years old, but she manages to keep herself looking like she's about 30. So, this is when Dick tells him about the whole thing with them trying to come at him on the water. According to the instructions received, Master Dandelion was duty-bound to squeal to Master Dijkstra about the planned ambush, but he did not. Master Dandelion had clear, explicit instructions in this matter, which he deigned to ignore. I am not one of your subordinates, and I don't have to comply with your instructions and orders. I help you sometimes, but I do so out of my own free will from patriotic duty so as not to stand idly by in the face of approaching changes. So, at this point, there's like a kind of a back and forth for a while about whether or not he knew what Geralt was up to. He denies it, yada, yada, yada. And finally, Philippa winds up sort of blurting something out. Because this guy's asking, like, where Geralt went, where he's heading, who he's trying to find. Don't forget, Dijkstra, our poet is mixed up to his ears in this affair. Where is the child seen with Geralt and Cadwyn? The girl with ashen hair and green eyes, the one Rince asked about. What do you know about the girl? Where has the Witcher hidden her? Where did Yennefer go when she received Geralt's letter? Where is Triss Merigold hiding, and why is she hiding? Dijkstra did not stir, but his swift glance at the magician showed that the spy was taken aback. The questions Philippa had raised had clearly been asked too soon, and directed to the wrong person. The questions appeared rash and careless. The trouble was that Philippa Eilhart could be accused of anything but rashness and carelessness. So I don't know precisely why she does this here, because I feel like she's sort of tipping her hand to her partner, Dick, that she's trying to like warn Geralt via Dandelion. I guess she does it because she doesn't know that she's going to be able to just follow Dandelion later on and be led straight to Geralt. So she's trying to use him if she can, just in case she isn't able to get a message to him later. But he manages to, like, after this meeting, they tell him that they're going to call off the spies, which he knows is bullshit. Everybody's lying to each other, and they all know that they're lying to each other, and it's like a super frustrating conversation. Dandelion winds up, like, sneaking out a window at one point during, like, a little gathering, and going down a bunch of alleyways and crossing people's roofs and doing all this, like, taking all these measures to make sure that he's not followed. And he gets to Geralt's window. Dandelion, wait, don't come in, please. What's that, don't come in? What do you mean, don't come in? You're not alone, or what? Are you betting someone right now? Geralt, he panted and immediately fell silent, then cursed under his breath, staring at the light green robes of a medical student strewn across the floor. He could have expected anything, but not this. Well, then, I enjoy this a great deal. I can't tell if it's a setup. I don't think it is, but maybe, but I don't think so. I think he was just banging her. Pack your bags. Your departure is imminent. How imminent? Exceptionally. Shani told me about the Snoops following you. You lost them, I understand? You don't understand anything. Rince? Worse. In that case, I really don't understand. Wait, the Redanians? Tredogor? Dijkstra? You've guessed. There's still no reason. It's reason enough. They're not concerned about Rince anymore, Geralt. They're after the girl and Yennefer. Dijkstra wants to know where they are. He's going to force you to disclose it to him. Do you understand now? So they're in the middle of talking about all of this when what should happen but a big gray owl swoops into the room and transforms into Philippa, which is pretty rad. That's pretty much the coolest. And basically she's like, listen, Dijkstra doesn't know that I'm low-key betraying him, but I know who this little girl is that you have. I know how incredibly important she is, and you better guard her with your life, and I am definitely going to, like, try and slow him down from finding her. So, let's see. Do you know so little about her? Because what is it about my award that makes her so very interesting? This is what Geralt says, like he's trying to fucking play dumb. Don't you know? Do you know so little about her? I wouldn't like to draw any hasty conclusions, but such a lack of knowledge would indicate that your qualifications as her guardian amount to nothing. In truth, I'm surprised that being so unaware and so lacking in information, you decided to look after her. And not only that, you decided to deny the rights to look after her to others who have both the qualifications and the right. And, on top of that, you ask why? Careful, Geralt, or your arrogance will be the end of you. Watch out. And guard that child, damn it. Guard that girl as though she's the apple of your eye, and if you can't do so yourself, ask others to. I enjoy this lady. What's up, Philippa? I think I might be a buddy of yours now. If she comes to any misfortune, the responsibility falls on you, Geralt. Only you. And he says, what makes so many people want to free me from the burden of that responsibility? What does the Council of Wizards want from Ciri? What do Dijkstra and King Vizimir want from her? What do the Temerians want from her? What does a certain Rince, who has already murdered 3 people in Sodden and Temeria, who were in touch with me and the girl 2 years ago, want from her? Who almost murdered Dandelion trying to extract information? Who is this Rince, Philippa? I don't know, said the magician. I don't know who Rince is, but like you, I'd very much like to find out. Does this Rince, Shani unexpectedly said, have a 3rd-degree burn on his face? If so, then I know who he is, and I know where he is. And that's the end of the chapter. Surprise, bitches. And after this is a short quote from Nicodemus de Boot, a book called Meditations on Life, Happiness, and Prosperity. And this quote says, "Murder is always murder, regardless of motive or circumstance. Thus, those who murder or prepare to murder are malefactors and criminals, regardless of who they may be, kings, princes, marshals, or judges. None who contemplates and commits violence has the right to consider himself better than an ordinary criminal, because it is in the nature of all violence to lead inevitably to crime." Interesting quote. All right, then. I wonder if that's supposed to be like an indictment of Geralt or somebody else, but it could kind of go either way. So that's the end of that chapter. So this bitch knows who he is. I'm dying to know. So we'll find out, I guess, pretty soon. But I have to wrap up. Thank you again to Melanie for commissioning this episode. And I hope that you guys are enjoying the coverage. And I will see you again soon with a new episode. So until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.